I wanted to talk today about the Banshees of Inisherin.
The dark comedy, The Banshees of Inisherin, it leads the pack this year for Golden Globe Awards with 8 nominations.
Yep. The Banshees of Inisherin.
No, I wrote this film for Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson.
Martin McDonagh, I owe you so much, man.
I can't believe it.
The movie is about two friends. Brendan Gleeson's character, Colin, lets Podrick, played by Colin Farrell, know, I don't want to be friends with you anymore.
I just don't like you no more.
He's made it clear that he doesn't want to waste any more time in his life because he wants to write music. He wants to have a lasting legacy. He talks about Mozart and how people remember Mozart hundreds of years later for his music, and you can see that that's what he wants. And he can't waste any more time speaking to a limited man, a dull man.
The other night, 2 hours you spent talking to me about the things you found in your little donkey shite that day.
Well, it wasn't me little donkey shite, it was me pony shite, which shows how much you were listening.
And this, of course, causes a lot of consternation for Colin Farrell's character, Podrick, who, for one thing, is very hurt that his friend doesn't want to be his friend anymore, but also questioning himself and his own intelligence and his own depth as a person.
You do like me.
I don't.
You liked me yesterday.
So this is what the movie is about on the surface. On the surface, it's about two men and how this relationship is crumbling and falling apart. At the very beginning of the movie, Colin Farrell goes and knocks on the door and then the window of his friend Colin, and he sees him there smoking a cigarette, but he doesn't respond.
Are you coming out to the pub, Colin? It's 2 o'clock, like.
He doesn't come out. He doesn't go to the pub with him, which apparently is a thing that's been happening every day for a very long time, to the point that the people at the pub are confused when Colin Farrell shows up without his friend, and they say, "Where's Colin?"
Is Colin not with you?
No.
Colin's always with you.
I know.
Have you been rowing?
I don't think we've been rowing.
Sounds like you've been rowing.
He goes home. His sister's also befuddled because she's like, "What are you doing here?"
What are you doing home? Brother,
I knocked on Colin's sonny Larry, he's just sitting there.
have you been rowing?
Have we been rowing?
Why wouldn't he answer the door to me?
Maybe he just doesn't like you no more.
So this is what the movie's about on the surface. But there's a subtext. And if you pay attention, you can see that, like all great stories, there's something bigger happening in the background of what's happening in the foreground. In this case, about 13 minutes into the movie, you see Colin Farrell near the water, and he hears gunfire, and he hears explosions, and he looks across the water and sees smoke rising. And it's the Civil War that's already been mentioned before, that's going on between, I guess, Protestants and Catholics. And he makes he says something like, "Would you look at yourselves? What are you fighting about?" This confusion of we're in this together, right? We're on this island together. We're brothers. We're all Irishmen. Why are you fighting? And whatever their answer is, it wouldn't be a good enough reason for shooting and killing one another, would it? There's a scene in the movie where Brendan Gleeson goes to the priest, and the priest says to him,
"Why aren't you talking to Porrick no more?"
That wouldn't be a sin now, would it, Father?
No, but it's not very nice either, is it?
It's made clear by the priest and by the sister, this isn't a good enough reason to not be friends with someone.
What the hell's going on with you, me feckin' brother?
He's dull, Siobhan.
But he's always been done.
Because they're dull? Because they're limited? I mean, is this really a good enough reason to end a friendship?
I just don't like you no more.
It does sound like we've been rowing.
And you see, that's the question. That's the subtext. When you see the war going on, it's like, is this a good enough reason? There's a scene where Brendan Gleeson is talking to the cop, the policeman in the town, and he says he's going to be going and he's going to be presiding over some hangings, and he's going to be paid well for it. And so Colin, Brendan Gleeson's character, says, "Well, you know, which side's doing the hanging?" And he can't even answer. He says it's the IRA, and he goes, "Well, or is the other side? I can't remember." And he's like, "You don't know which side you're going to be with?" And he makes this comment like, "Well, for the amount of money I'm getting paid, who cares? You don't even know why we're fighting. What's the point of this fight?" And that's what's played out through the film in this conflict between these two men. Patrick's character talks about what it means to be nice and how I'm going to remember my mom and my dad because they were nice. I'm going to remember my sister because she was nice. And then there's the opposite reaction, the opposite viewpoint, I should say, by Colin, who says no one's going to remember that you were nice, but they remember Mozart because of his music.
Do you know who we remember for how nice they was in the 17th century?
Who?
Absolutely no one. Yet we all remember the music at the time. Everyone to a man knows Mozart's name.
I don't, so there goes that theory.
You see this theme come in other movies as well. There's a scene in Whiplash, one of my favorite movies, where
Can you even fucking read music? Answer!
the same kind of idea where someone works so hard for their art form, for their craft, that they neglect everything around them. What you're remembered for is not how nice you were, but the impact that you made with your art. And that's why you see so many artists over the centuries that are tortured. They're tortured people, and they have failed relationships because they've spent all of their energies into the thing they're creating. Many people have wondered what's the ending about. Well, it's interesting that the Banshees of Inisherin, the title, comes from a piece of music. The music that now Colin is free to write, since he is no longer wasting his time listening to conversations, dull, meaningless chats with Podrick. There's a point in the movie where Brendan Gleeson says, if you speak to me again, I'm going to cut off one of my fingers. And I'll keep cutting them off until you stop.
I have a set of shears at home, and each time you bother me, I'll take one of my fingers off with them. Starting from now.
And this is where you realize this thing that has started as something silly and kind of ridiculous is getting serious and getting crazy. See, now you really are on Podrick's side from the beginning because you feel like he's being treated unfairly. But then once he's been warned and he continues to make dumb decisions, even the other people are like, Podrick, just don't talk to him. Just stay away from him. He doesn't want to talk to you. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting serious.
But shush like, Podrick. You know, shush like.
Yeah, I'd shush like.
And you start to realize that there is some stubbornness in this man, and maybe he's not the brightest person. He storms into his house and speaks to him, and this is after Brendan Gleeson's already cut off a finger.
How are you, fatty? Dancing with your dog, is it?
What did you come here for?
I just came to kick your door in and give you a slagging.
This is when we find out the name of the piece of music is the Banshees of Inisherin, and he says, I'm thinking of calling it the Banshees of Inisherin, and Podrick says, but there are no Banshees of Inisherin. But in that statement, he basically shows you there's been a Banshee on Inisherin from the very beginning of the film.
Colin's sonny Larry. Didn't you and he used to be the best of friends?
We're still the best of friends.
No, you're not.
Who says we're not?
Sit somewhere else.
The little lady who looks like death, who dresses in black, who's in the background, this blurry figure in black. Now, I love the way Martin McDonagh never focuses. He never changes the focus so that it remains in the background and it remains blurry, but you know who it is. You see her looking at him, and then you see her eyes shift to something else that she sees, and the look on her face changes to one of horror almost. She was the Banshee of Inisherin because Banshees portend death. They are going to prophesy, that they are going to let you know that death is coming. She frightens Colin Farrell's character on the trail one day, and she says to him, there will be a death on the island, maybe even 2 deaths. And that's exactly what happens. As you find out, there's 2 deaths. The donkey dies. By throwing those fingers out, the donkey tries to eat them, the donkey dies, and you see a change come over Podrick. He's no longer the pleasant man that he was before. Now he's full of anger, he's full of rage, and he wants revenge. And he gets his revenge in his own way. She proved to be prophetic. And you see at the end of the film as the 2 men are standing on the beach, looking at the water, both still alive. Amazingly. After everything that's happened, Brendan Gleeson says, I guess this means we're done. And he says, well, if you'd stayed in your house that I set on fire, we would be done. But you didn't. This relationship, no matter what could happen in the future, is fractured. It's like a civil war. It has damaged both of them to the point that they can probably never go back to where they were before. And as they separate, as one walks away from the other, you see in the foreground, seated and watching the entire thing, the lady in black, the Banshee of Inisherin.